Tonight, the Premier and Education Minister make a big announcement about schools, but it's not what some parents were hoping for.
They're not focused on what needs to be focused on at this juncture.
With students set to return to class in just 6 weeks, frustration grows over a lack of details. Plus,
so I turned to face him, and that's when he hit me in the side.
It was at that point that they threw their drink in my face.
2 women say they were attacked in Roncesvalles. Now police are trying to determine if they're connected. And transforming the Danforth to keep local businesses alive. We'll tell you what's being done to give the hard-hit neighborhood a leg up. Good evening, I'm Talia Ricci. Today, the province announced a multi-billion-dollar investment to build and expand new schools. The education minister says next week they'll provide details on what back to school will look like. But one parent organization says the cash is barely enough to make a dent in the repair backlog, let alone get classrooms ready for students to return to safely. Alice Chiasson has more.
It was an enthusiastic announcement made inside a school gym.
Anytime you want to come with a funding announcement, Premier Ford, you're always welcome in Brampton.
Here's what it's about.
Our government is investing $12 billion over the next decade to build new schools and refurbish and expand existing ones. This year alone, we're investing $500 million to build 30 brand new schools.
That includes 2 new schools in Brampton, one named after Private Buckham Singh, a Sikh Canadian soldier who fought in World War I, and another named after Nobel Prize laureate Malala Yousafzai. They also announced that along with the investment will come 900 new licensed childcare spaces. But critics hardly call this announcement a slam dunk.
It's gobsmacking. It's upsetting as a parent.
Krista Wiley is from parent organization Fix Our Schools.
There was $16.3 billion of disrepair in these buildings prior to March 13th when they all shut down.
The money announced today, she argues, isn't even enough to bring existing schools up to good repair, let alone retrofit schools for pandemic safety.
It's disappointing that they are, I think, playing games through PR strategies. They're not focused on what needs to be focused on at this juncture.
It's also not new money. The $500 million was infrastructure money put on hold.
Parents will notice the big difference in September when they're struggling to get their kids into safe environments.
Liberal MPP Michael Coteau was among those expecting today's announcement to be about schools safely reopening during a pandemic.
So this is going to be an issue, right? So a parent will have to make a decision. Is the school going to provide enough safety, in regards to personal protection equipment, the splitting of students? Are students in daycare going to come in and mix with kids in the school? Like, what are the safety plans? So that will be a big challenge, and school boards have not been provided the resources to ensure the best possible scenarios at this point.
When is that plan expected to be announced?
We'll be able to unveil it next week.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
The police officer who fatally shot Ijaz Chowdhry is refusing to speak with investigators. The 62-year-old man was shot by Peel police during a mental health crisis last month. His family says they originally called the non-emergency line for help. Now the officer who pulled the trigger says he won't speak to the Special Investigations Unit or hand over his notes from that night. Under the Police Services Act, subject officers cannot be legally compelled to speak with the SIU. A lawyer for the family told us today it's, quote, troubling but not surprising that the officer is refusing to speak. A groundbreaking ceremony for a new building on the city's waterfront was interrupted by protesters this morning.
On the restart agreement that was referred earlier.
You are the mayor of this city!
You're also being discourteous to all these other people who are here. So I tell you what, I've said I will answer a question and talk with you after you let me finish my remarks and let the people here get on with what we're doing to commemorate growth and employment for people in the city of Toronto.
No, your ribbon cutting can wait.
Demonstrators walked onto the stage where Mayor John Tory was speaking, while others spoke on megaphones. They're demanding the mayor stops evictions for those who can't afford to pay their rent due to the pandemic. The mayor and other officials were escorted into a nearby building. The group followed and waited outside.
In 2 weeks, the LTB will open up and the moratorium on evictions will be lifted. We're looking at thousands of evictions in the city, of families. So we're going to see all those people end up on the streets.
Tori was then escorted into a car by a number of police officers. Protesters swarmed the vehicle, demanding a meeting with the mayor. Tori released a statement later saying he has no legal authority to impose a ban on evictions. Metrolinx says it is committed to ensuring a community hub gets built for the Jane and Finch area. That's after the transit agency said it would be selling a piece of land near the Finch LRT expansion where the community center was set to be built.
Telling us that they're basically going to sell the lands at market value for this community project effectively kills the project. We would never be able to, as a community or as a city, outbid developers.
The local NDP MPP has written to the provincial transportation minister, CCing the premier, asking the province to intervene. Today, though, a spokesperson for Metrolinx clarified what's going to happen there. They say the plan all along was for the land to be sold.
We really regret that there was a confusion and a misunderstanding and that they're feeling betrayed. Something that hasn't changed is our commitment to making this project happen.
Aiken says Metrolinx is working together with the city, and one option is a condition in the sale that the community hub be built somewhere on the site. Toronto police are investigating 2 separate assaults in the Roncesvalles neighborhood. Both incidents happened earlier this week and has left the community shaken. Kelda Yoon reports.
It just came out of absolutely nowhere. I'd never seen him before.
Abigail Gamble says she was walking home around 11:30 Tuesday night when all of a sudden
I heard someone running up behind me very quickly, which was surprising, and I thought it was a jogger. And I could tell that he was really close to me, which felt odd. So I turned to face him, and that's when he hit me in the side.
she says the man tried to punch her again in the face, but she blocked him. He then fled. Gamble called police shortly after, describing the man as around 5'9" or 5'10", with an athletic build and black hair. She said he was wearing a surgical mask, dark athletic clothing, and running shoes. Gamble's tweet about what happened has also since been shared over 1,000 times.
The response from people, mostly women, has just been astounding. The support, the stories that other women are sharing.
Gamble's story prompting Jessica Chimo to come forward about a similar incident that happened to her on Monday night, just before 10.
My partner and I, we were biking southbound on Saborin.
She said it was when she stopped at a stop sign at Garden Avenue that she realized someone had snuck up to her.
Then they came around here, then suddenly they were next to me. So I paused to see, I was like, oh, there's somebody, oh, they're right next, oh, maybe they want to cross. So I waited. And that it was at that point that they threw their drink in my face.
The suspect then fled. Chimo says the substance tasted like cola and she will be getting tested for COVID-19. Police are now investigating both incidents, but says it's still too early to say if they are related. Both women hope by speaking out, others will be emboldened to come forward.
I was blown away when I saw her tweet and saw that me sharing my story was the impetus for her to share hers. And it's just so important for women knowing that we are the targets of gender-based violence to stand together.
We want to make sure that this violence isn't tolerated.
Toronto police inspectors met with both women earlier today. They have also been canvassing this neighborhood, hoping that someone has surveillance video that could help identify this suspect. Gamble says if the suspect is caught, she hopes that charges will be laid. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto police are searching for a man after a 65-year-old woman was brutally attacked in her home while she slept. Police allege 32-year-old Mark William Kubiks of Thornhill broke into the woman's home in the Don Mills and Steeles area just before 7 this morning. He allegedly struck her in the face and choked her until she lost consciousness. Police say her injuries are life-altering. Kubiks is wanted for several charges, including break-and-enter and aggravated assault. There was a hearing today for the man accused of causing a crash in Brampton that killed a mother and her 3 daughters. Brady Robertson is charged with 4 counts of dangerous operation of a vehicle causing death. The 20-year-old was allegedly speeding in a car when he slammed into an SUV, killing Carolina Chisulo and her 3 daughters, Clara, Liliana, and Mila. Robertson will appear in court again in August to set a date for a bail hearing. The Crown is expected to argue he should remain in custody until his trial. People are now being asked to sign up and try out the federal government's COVID-19 tracing app. The app is meant to warn users if they've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for the virus. It was originally supposed to be tried out in Ontario earlier this month, but wound up being delayed. Now you can try it out while it's in its beta testing. The app is supposed to track phones' locations without collecting personal data anywhere centrally. And if you do sign up, don't be alarmed. The app will send false alerts just to make sure that the system works. A portion of the Danforth will undergo a transformation this summer. It's an attempt to bring more people to the area and stop any more businesses from closing. Today, the local councillors held a virtual meeting about these changes. Lorenda Redekop tells us the plan for Destination Danforth.
The work to beautify the Danforth is still in progress, and to extend patio space into the street, like we're seeing across the city. The plan is to separate bike lanes, add art installations, and more walking space. Councillor Paula Fletcher held a community meeting over Zoom.
Keeping pedestrians safe is really one of the big goals of this particular project.
Another change, parking would be allowed in some spots 24/7. No risk of being towed away over rush hour. The changes come as some of the traditions are back in Greektown, but they don't have the sure moneymaker of Taste of the Danforth to look forward to.
At least, I have a job right now. I've been off for 3.5 months, so because we can accommodate people at the patio, at least I have a few shifts a week, and I have something to keep myself busy with.
One change that I'm told just happened today is that these barriers were brought in to separate the bike lane. But some business owners aren't happy because they say they've lost parking spaces.
Danforth is already dead, but now it's going to be worse. This is like the death of Danforth.
Because it's going to take away parking spots?
Exactly. People, they have no place to park. How are they going to come?
It's not that much of a parking reduction for people that have been worried about that.
Councillor Fletcher says only around 5% of street parking has been lost. Those spots will return in fall after patio season. She says this pilot project will improve accessibility and hopefully make it safer for cyclists and pedestrians. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Coming up, thousands of elective surgeries were canceled at the height of the pandemic. Now hospitals across the province are tackling a massive backlog while patients remain in limbo. We'll have that story after the break. Plus,
lots of things to look forward to about tomorrow. Well, the weather's one of them, at least. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. I would like to tell you all about that, and then some of the changes that are coming for the weekend as well. That's all coming up after the break.
Welcome back. The mayor of Niagara Falls has announced a new program to help deal with the crowds that are gathering at the Falls Strip, Clifton Hill. Doesn't really look like anyone is physically distancing. The mayor says the program will start immediately. A team of ambassadors wearing shirts that say "Crush the Curve" will be patrolling and handing out sanitizer, selling masks, and reminding people to keep their distance. We're getting an early idea of the impact COVID-19 has had on surgical wait times in this province. June was the first full month that elective surgeries resumed after a state of emergency put them on hold. The backlog is now so bad that experts say if we don't speed up the system, it could take years to clear. Lauren Pelly has that story.
Like many people in the pandemic, Patty Anacleto has been trying to stay calm. But in February, the Brampton resident started feeling a strange new pain.
What it felt like I was having pulsing or spasm in my chest and down my throat, and then there was just some general pain. I couldn't lay down to sleep.
It turned out to be gallstones, and Anacleto needs surgery to remove her gallbladder.
It's very unsettling just waiting, knowing I could have a gallstone go off tomorrow and I would be in pain again, and there's really nothing I can do.
Now she's stuck waiting, like thousands of other Ontarians, not knowing when she'll get into an operating room.
People are waiting in pain, people are waiting in uncertainty, some people's health declines while they're waiting.
The big backlog means delays across the board. People needing cancer surgeries typically waited 50 days last summer, but the wait time was close to double that this June. A similar jump in waits for neurosurgeries, going from 158 days last summer to more than 200 last month. And even kids' surgeries, which once took 167 days, now have a wait time of 209. That new provincial data only shows surgeries that have been completed. Some warn with thousands more in the pipeline, the entire system needs to boost its capacity.
It would take a long time, years, for us to catch up on that backlog.
When you think about cancer cases, those are not things that you can just put off indefinitely.
At North York General, teams are trying to keep surgery patients flowing in and out.
So it was a huge effort to get all of those cases that were in the queue divided up and then prioritized. And then we tried to run 1 to 2 rooms a day, even during the heat of the pandemic, to address those needs.
How do we increase our capacity over the coming months? That could involve working on weekends, adding an extra hour shift to a surgical block of time.
In the meantime, Anacleto says worried patients like her just want updates on how long they'll have to wait.
If I knew I had a week, a month, a year, I think I would feel better just knowing that information.
Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Brampton.
Time now for a check on the forecast with meteorologist Colette Kennedy. Colette, looks like a hot and sunny weekend coming up.
Thanks, Talia. You know, we do have some changes coming our way, but we kind of have this breaker in between, which is Friday, which is going to be such a pleasant day. I know today was pretty good too, but as high pressure is kind of working its way in, we have a real treat in store before some humidity is really coming back at us. So Friday is just a beauty. I can't call it anything else other than that. But the temperatures are heating up into the weekend. But not only that, the humidity is going to be going up. So maybe not so much for Saturday, we'll see. But it's possible that, quite possible, we'll see the heat warnings coming back as we get towards Sunday, because we're going to find those humidex values getting closer towards 40, and even the overnight lows being around 20. So this kind of puts us into that territory once again. Our daytime highs for today right around 27, so really pretty comfortable, a little cooler towards Barrie, as you see, even a little warmer there over towards the Peterborough region. What's ahead tonight? Nice conditions. I will just point out, though, you can see this moving in from Lake Erie. A little bit of fog tonight into southwestern Ontario, so be aware of that. Some of that reduced visibility hanging on even into the early morning hours, and then that sunshine will be burning that off. So it's the very early morning hours where you might still be having some of those issues. Then we get into some of that sunshine. You'll have a little more cloud cover at times in this region. Otherwise, we got lots of sun from the Golden Horseshoe up here towards Lake Huron, well over towards eastern Ontario and beyond. Now, some of the blended models do want to put a few showers in here with some of this cloud cover, some isolated showers into southwestern Ontario. I don't like those models. I'm going more with the Canadian one that's keeping us nice and dry through this region, all right? As we look into the weekend, Saturday's looking good too, and then things change a little bit into Sunday, but really more so it's towards Monday. We're going to see some active weather coming and perhaps some severe weather coming back at us as well. But we have a couple of days to enjoy before we get into that. Overnight tonight, the temperatures look like this. For Windsor, 17. Tomorrow afternoon, 28. Humidex values coming down, so a little more comfortable, but it's only for one day before they go back up in the other direction. Tonight, your temperatures, Markham, how about 18? That feels pretty good, doesn't it? Hamilton tomorrow at 28. You see your average highs look like this. And here's where we're going. So Saturday at least 30, Sunday at least 33, feeling more like 40. That severe risk, I say, I'm putting that in as we go towards Monday, so we'll be talking much more about that as that event gets a little bit closer.
Thanks, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
It was a big day for hockey fans south of the border. The NHL's newest franchise unveiled its name, the Seattle Kraken.
We hope today is proof positive that we continue to honor that passion. A passion to build the next great franchise. A passion to bring the Stanley Cup back to Seattle.
Seattle was once home to a professional squad that won the Stanley Cup in 1917. The city was awarded a new NHL franchise in December 2018. The Kraken will be the league's 32nd team. They're scheduled to begin play in the 2021-22 season in a brand new arena. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Recycled phones and tablets are being used across Ontario hospitals and healthcare facilities to connect patients with their families during the pandemic. The initiative was started by a group of doctors who were having a hard time watching patients suffer alone. Take a look.
We were able to create Frontline Connect Canada, collecting donations of devices and then being able to redistribute them to hospitals and other care facilities. We've already placed like over 275 devices, and every single one of those devices have been donated.
Before the donations came, a lot of physicians were using sort of their own devices, their own phones to connect people via FaceTime or Zoom calls to their family members. It was quite gut-wrenching to see all these patients coming in without their family members at the bedside when they're at their most vulnerable. I think these devices have done so much that we can't even, they're immeasurable how helpful they've been in sort of having the happiness that we see on patients' faces, where they can actually see a loved one.
This angel of a doctor had called me to tell me my dad was doing okay, all the test results were good, and let me speak to my dad. He even went as far as FaceTiming me with my dad, and my dad started crying, and I was crying on the other end. I was also able to call my siblings. He was able to talk to them and even kiss them over the phone. So they were touched, and needless to say, we all started crying.
Frontline Connect Canada is going to continue to take device donations from the community and to continue to reach out and help other long-term care facilities, other hospitals, and other hospices that may request our help and may request devices. And so we'll be here for as long as we see that there's a need.
And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.